An ancient mystery, buried deep beneath the endless flow of the Euphrates River, awaits its revelation. What will happen when the four fallen angels, beings once radiant with light before the throne of God, are released from their chains of darkness? In the pages of the Bible, where light and darkness clash, the Euphrates is more than just a river. It is the tomb of forces that once shook the heavens, beings named Lucifer, Siamyaza, Azazel, and Beelzebub. But when the fateful moment arrives, when those chains shatter, what will the world face? A storm of chaos, a final test, or a warning for humanity to awaken? Have you ever felt an unseen unease, as if an ancient force is quietly rising in today's world? From the temptations creeping into our lives to the signs of global unrest, could we be living in the era leading to the moment when these fallen angels are set free? This journey will take you deep into the prophecies of the Bible, exploring the meaning of their release and what it could bring to our future. This is not just an ancient tale. It is a warning, a call to look within your heart and prepare for what lies ahead. If you're ready to step into this mystery, comment 888 Unveil the Mystery. Right now, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to never miss a Bible story. Join us as we uncover the truth hidden beneath the Euphrates, a truth that could change how you see the world forever. Within the ancient pages of the Bible, amidst sacred words recounting creation and salvation, lies a mystery that sends shivers through even the staunchest hearts. The Euphrates River, a legendary waterway, is not only a witness to human history, but also the prison of forces that once shook the heavens. Why would an ancient river, once flowing through the Garden of Eden, become the tomb of the most powerful beings who stood before God's throne? This question opens a story not just of the past, but of a future shrouded in mystery, when the chains beneath the river's depths may shatter, unleashing beings feared by both angels and humans alike. The Euphrates appears in the earliest chapters of the Bible, in Genesis 2:14, described as one of the four rivers flowing from the Garden of Eden, the birthplace of life, where God placed the first humans to live in harmony with Him. This river is not merely a geographic marvel, winding through ancient lands like Babylon and Mesopotamia, but carries profound spiritual significance. It symbolizes life and grace, but also serves as a boundary between light and darkness, obedience and rebellion. In ancient cultures, the Euphrates was the lifeblood of great empires, but in the Bible, it plays a different role. A place chosen by God to confine those who dared defy His divine will. Picture this river, its waters shimmering under the sun, yet concealing a dark secret beneath its tranquil surface. According to biblical tradition and ancient texts like the Book of Enoch, four fallen angels, beings once radiant with the light of heaven, are bound in chains beneath the earth where the river flows. This imprisonment is no accident. The Euphrates, a river of life, has become a tomb of darkness, as if God chose the very source of creation to seal away those who brought destruction. But why? Why not destroy them outright? And more crucially, what awaits when their time comes, when those chains are broken? This story is not just an ancient mystery. It is a warning that the forces restrained beneath this river may one day rise, bringing consequences no one can fully predict. The mystery of the Euphrates lies not only in its geography, but in its spiritual weight. In Revelation 9:14-15, the Bible speaks of four angels bound at the great river Euphrates, beings released to bring judgment upon the world. Though their identities are not explicitly named, many scholars believe this refers to the fallen angels who caused chaos in humanity's early days. The Euphrates, therefore, is not just a river, but a symbol of divine restraint, a prison God established to keep the most dangerous forces at bay, at least until the appointed time. But when that day comes, when these angels are set free, what will the world face? This mystery draws us into a deeper journey, confronting beings who once stood before God's throne, now sealed in darkness. Among the countless angels who once sang praises before God's throne, 4 stand out not only for their power, but for their betrayal: Lucifer, Siamayaza, Azazel, and Beelzebub. How could beings created from light fall into such profound darkness? This question is not just a mystery, but a reminder of the power of free will, a divine gift given to both angels and humans, yet a path to destruction when misused. First is Lucifer, the light bearer, once the most radiant archangel in heaven. According to Ezekiel 28:12-14, he was described as full of wisdom and perfect in beauty, a being crafted with musical instruments woven into his very essence, as if he were a living symphony to glorify God. But pride crept into his heart. Isaiah 14:13-14 records Lucifer's audacious ambition. "I will ascend to heaven. I will set my throne above the stars of God. I will make myself like the Most High." From an angel leading worship, he became God's enemy, rallying a third of the angels in a rebellion against heaven. Revelation 12:4. Lucifer's fall is the greatest tragedy in spiritual history, transforming him from a beacon of light into Satan, the adversary, and father of lies. John 8:44. Next is Samyaza, leader of the Watchers, angels tasked with overseeing humanity in its earliest days. According to the Book of Enoch 6:1-2, Samyaza and 200 angels under his command were swayed by the beauty of human women, leading to a sinful pact on Mount Hermon. They took human wives, giving rise to the Nephilim, giants who wrought violence and chaos on earth. Enoch 7:2-5. Siamyaza's actions were not just betrayal, but a violation of the sacred boundary between heaven and earth, bringing unprecedented corruption to humanity. Azazel, meaning the one strengthened by God, chose a path of corruption. According to the Book of Enoch 8:1-3, he taught humanity to craft weapons, swords, shields, armor, and the art of cosmetics, turning beauty into a tool of vanity and war into a language of power. These teachings, which could have been blessings if used rightly, became curses in the hands of those without God's guidance. Azazel not only altered humanity's nature, but sowed the seeds of destruction, from the first forged blades to blood-soaked wars. Finally, Beelzebub, the lord of the flies, a fearsome being with cunning deception. In 1 Samuel 5-6, he was worshipped by the Philistines as a god of pestilence, but in the New Testament, he is called the Prince of Demons. Matthew 12:24-26. Unlike Lucifer's overt ambition, Beelzebub operates in shadows, spreading spiritual decay through whispers of lies and false worship. These 4 angels, once radiant beings, chose paths of rebellion, turning their light into darkness. But the question remains: why were they bound, and what awaits when they are set free? The imprisonment of the 4 fallen angels beneath the Euphrates River is no arbitrary punishment, but a symbol of God's divine justice, both stern and patient. When these mighty beings were bound in darkness, what does it reveal about God's power and the fate of those who defy Him? According to Revelation 21-2, an angel descends from heaven with the key to the abyss and a great chain, binding the dragon, that ancient serpent, who is the devil or Satan, for 1,000 years. Though this passage focuses on Satan, tradition holds that the other fallen angels, Siamyaza, Azazel, and Beelzebub, share a similar fate, sealed beneath the Euphrates, where the river's waters mark the boundary between grace and judgment. Why did God not destroy them immediately? The answer lies in His nature, a God of justice, yet full of mercy. Instead of immediate annihilation, God chose to bind them, a warning that no sin, however great, can outmatch His power. The Book of Enoch 10:4-6 describes how Azazel was bound and cast into the desert of Dudael, while the other angels were confined beneath the Euphrates, awaiting the final day of judgment. This imprisonment is a pause before the storm, a time for humanity to recognize the consequences of rebellion and return to the light. The Euphrates, with its profound spiritual significance, becomes a symbol of divine restraint. It is not merely a place of confinement, but a reminder that every action has consequences, and no sin, whether committed by angels or humans, escapes God's sight. Yet this imprisonment is not permanent. Revelation 27 hints that a time will come when these angels are released, leading to a final battle. This raises a haunting question. When the chains beneath the Euphrates River break, what will the world face? The answer lies not in the present, but in what is to come, a mystery that only time and God's will shall reveal. The four fallen angels are not merely beings who betrayed God. They are forces of terrifying power, once capable of shaking both heaven and earth. If these beings once challenged God's throne, what will their return bring to the world? Picture Lucifer, with his blinding light and towering ambition, leading a third of the angels against God. Revelation 12:4. Consider Samyaza, head of the Watchers, who birthed the Nephilim, giants 300 cubits tall, devouring everything from crops to humans. Enoch 7:2-5. Azazel, with his knowledge of warfare and vanity, transformed humanity's nature, turning them from pure creations into beings consumed by violence and pride. And Beelzebub, with his cunning deception, once worshipped as a god, sowed pestilence and spiritual decay. Their power lies not only in their angelic might, but in their ability to influence humanity. According to the Book of Enoch, the actions of Samyaza and his cohort led to such corruption that God sent the great flood to cleanse the earth. Genesis 6:5-6. Azazel, by teaching humans to craft weapons, ushered in an era of war and conflict. Beelzebub, with his whispers of lies, led entire ancient nations to turn from God to idol worship. These angels are not just dangerous for their strength, but for their capacity to draw humanity into darkness, a threat that remains alive today. The most chilling truth is that their confinement is not the end. Revelation 9:14-15 suggests that these angels will be released at an appointed time to fulfill a role in God's plan. But what role? Judgment, chaos, or a final test for humanity? This question hangs like a shadow, urging us to ask, is the world ready when these beings emerge from the depths of the Euphrates? Pause for a moment and consider. If these forces once shook heaven and earth, how must we, ordinary humans, prepare for the day they return? As the final pages of the Bible unfold, a haunting vision emerges, like a whisper from the future. Could the moment when the four fallen angels are released from the Euphrates River be the tolling bell signaling the end of the age? The Book of Revelation, the prophetic cornerstone of the New Testament, paints a vivid picture of the last days where ancient forces rise to defy God's will. In Revelation 27-10, we are warned that after 1,000 years of captivity, Satan, the dragon, that ancient serpent, will be released for a short time to lead a final rebellion. Though this passage focuses on Satan, ancient traditions and the Book of Enoch suggest that the other fallen angels, Lucifer, Samyaza, Azazel, and Beelzebub, are also bound in the same place, beneath the Euphrates River, awaiting the fateful moment when their chains are shattered. But what does this release signify? Revelation 9:14-15 describes 4 angels bound at the great river Euphrates, set free to bring judgment upon a third of humanity. These are no ordinary angels. They were once radiant warriors of heaven, endowed with power beyond human imagination. Their return is not merely an event, but a spiritual turning point, marking a final test of humanity's faith. Why would God allow these dangerous beings to be set free? Is this part of a divine plan where humanity must face the forces of darkness to prove its loyalty to the light? Or is it an inevitable judgment when the world's sins reach their peak? Revelation 16:12 adds a troubling detail. The Euphrates River will dry up, paving the way for the kings from the east. An image suggesting that the angel's release may come suddenly, like a flame igniting in the dead of night. In the ancient world, the Euphrates was a natural barrier separating empires. When it dries up, it signals the invasion of destructive forces. The Book of Enoch 10:12 states that the fallen angels are bound until the day of the great judgment, yet it reveals little about what will happen when they are freed. This silence amplifies the sense of mystery, compelling us to ask, when the gates of the abyss swing open, what will the world face? This prophecy is not a distant tale. It is a warning that time is running out and the fateful moment is drawing closer than ever. If the fallen angels remain bound, how do their influences still seep into our world? Could the temptations surrounding us today be echoes of ancient forces, preparing for the day they rise again? Though chained beneath the Euphrates, the shadows of Lucifer, Siamyaza, Azazel, and Beelzebub seem to linger, not as visible beings, but through subtle temptations shaping modern society. Their sins, pride, lust, corruption, and deception are not mere relics of the past. They are forces still at work, like dark winds blowing through the minds and hearts of humanity. The pride of Lucifer, which once drove him to covet God's throne, now manifests in a culture obsessed with self-exaltation. In a world where social media turns each person into the center of their own universe, we see humanity relentlessly chasing recognition, fame, and power. Perfectly curated posts, the race to become an influencer, or the worship of personal success, all bear the marks of the pride Lucifer sowed. James 4:6 warns, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Could our obsession with shining be a sign that Lucifer is whispering from the shadows, preparing for the day he is set free? The lust of Siamyaza, who breached the sacred boundary between heaven and earth, rages in the whirlwind of unchecked desires. From chasing material wealth, luxury cars, extravagant possessions, to craving knowledge beyond moral bounds, modern society seems caught in a spiral of ambition. Technology, which could uplift the human spirit, is often twisted to satisfy selfish desires, from exploited secrets to temptations amplified through screens. The Book of Enoch recounts how Siamyaza's actions led to the chaos of the Nephilim. Are our desires today leading to a similar chaos as the time of their release draws near? The corruption of Azazel, who turned knowledge into tools of war and vanity, echoes in how we misuse God's gifts. From weapons of mass destruction to artificial intelligence used for manipulation, humanity's knowledge has become a double-edged sword. Azazel also taught women the art of cosmetics, turning beauty into a tool of pride. A phenomenon still evident in our culture's obsession with appearance, from social media filters to a billion-dollar fashion industry. The Book of Enoch 8:1-3 describes how these teachings led to corruption. Are we repeating that mistake, turning blessings into curses? Finally, the deception of Beelzebub, the Lord of the Flies, weaves through false philosophies and the flood of information. From fake news spreading like wildfire to hollow promises of instant happiness, Beelzebub seems to still be at work, blinding humanity to God's truth. Matthew 12:24-26 calls him the Prince of Demons, and his influence is seen in our apathy toward truth, as we readily accept lies instead of seeking eternal light. These signs are not random mistakes. They are invisible threads pulling us into darkness, as if preparing for the day the fallen angels rise. Today's world is not just a stage for personal temptations. It is a spiritual battlefield where the forces of the four fallen angels continue to set traps, even while they remain bound. Ephesians 6:12 declares, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world." Could the temptations surrounding us be signs that these forces are growing stronger, preparing for the day they are set free? This battle is not just an ancient story. It unfolds in our daily decisions, from fleeting thoughts to choices that shape our lives. Every temptation, a lie to protect oneself, a moment of pride, or an unchecked desire, is a skirmish in a larger war. Lucifer whispers that we don't need God to succeed. Siamyaza stirs desires that drive us toward fleeting pleasures instead of eternal values. Azazel turns knowledge into a weapon of conflict, from online arguments to global wars. And Beelzebub, with his cunning deception, makes us doubt the truth, leading us away from God's light. These forces don't need to appear as fearsome beings. They work through subtle temptations, whispers that catch us off guard. What's alarming is the world's indifference to these signs. In an age overflowing with information, we rarely pause to ask if these temptations are part of a greater plan. Revelation 16:12 describes the Euphrates drying up, opening the way for chaos. Could our modern world, with its escalating conflicts and moral decay, be nearing that moment? The Book of Enoch 10:12-13 suggests that the fallen angels will remain bound until the day of the great judgment. But when that day arrives, what will become of the world? Are we living in the final days, when the signs of their release are becoming evident? This question is not just a reflection. It is a warning that we stand on the brink of an event that could change everything. If the day of the fallen angels' release is approaching, what must we do to be ready? When the storm of darkness descends, will you have the strength to stand firm? In Ephesians 6:13-17, the Apostle Paul urges us to put on the full armor of God to face the day of evil. This is not armor of metal, but spiritual weapons. The belt of truth to counter lies, the breastplate of righteousness to protect the heart, the shield of faith to extinguish doubt, the helmet of salvation to keep the mind clear, and the sword of the Spirit, God's Word, to fight the darkness. These tools are not mere symbols. They are the power to confront forces that once shook heaven. Preparation is not just about wielding weapons. It demands a transformation of heart and mind. The fallen angels failed because they misused free will, choosing darkness over light. But we have another path, the path of faith, obedience, and prayer. 1 Peter 5:8 warns, "Be alert and of sober mind." Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. This alertness requires us to see through the temptations around us, from subtle lies to ambitions that pull us away from God. Each day is an opportunity to strengthen faith, to reject the whispers of pride, lust, corruption, and deception. Picture a moment when the world faces its ultimate test. Will those who have forged their faith, lived in truth, and prayed stand firm against the storm? Or will those who succumb to temptation be swept away? Whether the angel's release comes in our time or not, preparation is essential. The Book of Enoch 10:13 emphasizes that the fallen angels will face final judgment. But before that day, humanity must confront its own choices. Are you equipping your spiritual armor, or are you letting the world's temptations weaken you before the fateful day? The answer lies not in predicting that moment, but in how you live today, as the darkness of the fallen angels lurks beneath the Euphrates. When the chains binding the four fallen angels, Lucifer, Siamyaza, Azazel, and Beelzebub, beneath the Euphrates River shatter, the world will face a storm unlike any before. When these beings, who once challenged God's throne, step forth from the darkness, Can the earth withstand the destructive power they bring? The book of Revelations 27 through 9 paints a terrifying vision. After 1,000 years of captivity, Satan will be released, leading the nations, called Gog and Magog, in a final rebellion against God's people. Though this passage centers on Satan, ancient traditions, including the Book of Enoch, suggest that the other fallen angels, bound in the same place, will also join in this fateful event, turning it into a spiritual storm threatening to engulf the order of creation. This moment is not merely the physical release of these angels, it is an event that shakes both heaven and earth. Lucifer, whose pride once drove him to surpass God, could ignite unprecedented division, turning nations against each other in merciless conflicts. Samyaza, leader of the Watchers who birthed the Nephilim, giants who wrought violence and chaos, Book of Enoch 7:2-5, might revive those dark days when lust and greed transformed the earth into a battlefield. Azazel, master of corruption, could turn humanity's knowledge into weapons of destruction, from war technologies to false philosophies, plunging the world into a spiral of devastation. And Beelzebub, the lord of the flies, with his cunning deception, could obscure the truth, causing humanity to lose faith in God at the most critical hour. Revelation 9:15-16 describes the aftermath of this release as a flood of judgment, with the angels unleashed to bring destruction to a third of humanity. But what makes this moment so terrifying? It is not just the power of the fallen angels, but their ability to amplify humanity's sins. Lucifer's pride could fuel arrogance, leading people to place themselves above God. Samyaza's lust could spark uncontrollable desires, from material wealth to power. Azazel's corruption could transform humanity's advancements into tools of ruin. And Beelzebub's deception could blind humanity, rendering them unable to see the truth. The Book of Enoch 10:8 emphasizes that these fallen angels once led humanity astray. When set free, will they plunge the world into an unprecedented vortex of chaos? This question hangs like a warning, signaling that this day will be the ultimate test of humanity's faith. Though the release of the fallen angels may shake the world, the Bible proclaims that darkness can never overcome God's light. When fire descends from heaven, can the forces that once shook the heavens stand against the infinite power of the Creator? Revelation 29:10 depicts the decisive moment. As Satan and his forces surround God's people, fire comes down from heaven and consumes them. Satan, along with Lucifer, Samyaza, Azazel, and Beelzebub, will be cast into the lake of fire and sulfur, where they will be tormented day and night forever. This is not merely the defeat of the fallen angels, it is the affirmation that God's justice is absolute, and no force, however radiant it once was, can challenge his authority. The eternal lake of fire symbolizes the end of every sin these fallen angels represent. Lucifer, who dreamed of seizing God's throne, will see his prideful ambitions vanish in the flames. Samyaza, who defiled the sacred order with lust, will face the consequences of his misguided choices. Azazel, who turned knowledge into a tool of destruction, will find no refuge from God's truth. And Beelzebub, master of deception, will be exposed before the eternal light. The Book of Enoch 10:6 describes Azazel's fate. Cast into fire on the day of judgment, tradition holds that the other fallen angels will share a similar fate, forever confined in the darkness they chose. Yet God's triumph is not only the destruction of evil, it is a promise of eternal restoration. Revelation 21:1-2 describes a new heaven and a new earth where God will dwell with his people and all suffering will cease. In this kingdom, there will be no trace of pride, lust, corruption, or deception. Every wound will be healed, every heart restored, and every soul united with God. 2 Peter 3:13 adds, But in keeping with his promise, we are looking forward to a new heaven and a new earth where righteousness dwells. This victory is not just the end of the fallen angels. It is an invitation for humanity to step into a flawless future. But to reach it, we must ask, can we stand firm through the storm to enter the eternal light? The release of the fallen angels is not just a distant future event. It is a call to action today. When the day of judgment comes, where will you stand? In the light of God or in the darkness of rebellion? This question is not a vague reflection. It is an urgent invitation to examine your heart, reject temptation, and live in truth to prepare for what lies ahead. Ephesians 6:13-17 describes the armor of God, the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the shield of faith, the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit as weapons to confront the forces of darkness. But these weapons do not protect us automatically. They require active commitment to live by God's will every day, every temptation in life, a moment of pride when you place yourself above others, a desire that pulls you from truth, a decision swayed by corruption or deception, is a small battle in a greater spiritual war. Romans 13:12 urges, "The night is nearly over, the day is almost here, so let us put aside the deeds of darkness and put on the armor of light." This call is not just to reject temptation, it is to live with purpose, share truth with those around you, and build a life that reflects God's love and justice. 1 John 1:9 promises, "If we confess our sins, He is faithful and just, and will forgive us our sins and purify us from all unrighteousness." This is an invitation to step out of darkness and into light, starting today. Living in the light is not just a personal act, it is a mission to transform the world around you. The book of Enoch 10:8 emphasizes that the fallen angels led humanity astray, but we can choose a different path, one of faith, humility, and loyalty. Every time you choose truth over lies, humility over pride, or love over conflict, you build a legacy of light, preparing for the day the fallen angels are released. Will you stand firm in the light, or let yourself be swept into the storm of darkness? The answer lies in the choices you make right now. The story of the fallen angels' release does not end in darkness or chaos. It opens a vision of eternal hope. If you could step into a world free of temptation, suffering, or darkness, what would you do today to prepare? Revelation 21:1-4 paints a breathtaking picture. "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. God will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away." This is not just a promise of evil's end. It is an invitation to a flawless kingdom where God's light shines forever, free of pride, lust, corruption, or deception. In this kingdom, there are no whispers from Lucifer urging people to exalt themselves above God. No temptations from Samyaza leading humanity astray. No corruption from Azazel turning knowledge into destruction, and no deception from Beelzebub obscuring the truth. Revelation 20:6 declares, "Blessed and holy are those who share in the first resurrection. The second death has no power over them, but they will be priests of God and of Christ, and will reign with him for 1,000 years." This is not just a reward for those who stand firm. It is a call to become part of God's eternal plan, a kingdom where every wound is healed and every heart restored. Picture a world where all suffering vanishes, where every soul is united with God. But to enter this kingdom, you must choose the light today. The book of Enoch 10:13 affirms that the fallen angels will face final judgment. But before that day, humanity must confront its own choices. Every step you take in faith, every rejection of temptation, every moment you share light with others is a brick in the path to this flawless kingdom. Matthew 5:16 urges, "Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Pause and ask yourself, if tomorrow is the day the fallen angels are released, where would you want your heart to be, in the eternal light or the fleeting darkness? The answer lies not in predicting that day, but in how you live today, preparing for a future where God's light triumphs forever. The mystery of the 4 fallen angels beneath the Euphrates River reminds us that the battle between light and darkness rages on in our world today. Whether their day of release comes or not, this story calls us to live with vigilance, choose the light, and bring hope to those around us. What do you think about this mystery? Share your thoughts in the comments. What struck you, or how are you preparing for the spiritual challenges in your life? If this story stirred your soul, hit the like button and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to keep exploring inspiring Bible mysteries. We live in a world full of challenges, but God's light always guides the way. Let that light lead you, starting today, and we'll see you in the next journey.